All right, listo.
Yay.
Okay. This is the most awkward part, just to start, because I have
Do
to.
you start like with an introduction?
Exactly. No, so. Right. So, welcome to a new episode of Dupl+s. Today we are with a very different, I think it's going to change the dynamic of the podcast, but also very interesting person. Her name is Roxane. She's a neuroscience professional, yes. And she's going to talk about her journey, how her journey connects with things that she has learned about mental health, how to navigate and connect with your heart, especially, and more about how we can find a balance about spirituality and mental awareness. So, Roxanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. For the people who know you and the people who don't know you, who are you?
So, as you introduced me, I am Roxana. I am many things. I'm a creative being, but my training has been in neuroscience. I work in mental health at the moment. And I'm also a yoga teacher and somatic practitioner, so I guide people in connecting with their bodies. And I'm just a human being on a human journey and spiritual journey, and overall, trying to make a difference in the world, I guess.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You're not originally from here, are you?
No.
When did you move to the UK?
So I'm from Romania, and I lived there first 18 years of my life, and I moved to the UK about 9 years ago, 2015. Yeah.
And how was that? Is there a big difference between the Romanian culture or what you were living and what you started to live here?
Yeah, so I've always felt like I don't really belong in a way with the sort of mentality in Romania. Like I felt, especially coming from the eastern side, like the western side of Romania is more modernized and more Western, I guess. But the eastern side, like I found people like very close-minded. There wasn't much opportunity to progress, and even the field I was interested in, like neuroscience, there wasn't really much in Romania. So I always knew that I always had this pull to go and study in another country.
Yeah.
So I went to university days or something like that, and found University of Southampton, and I thought, yeah, why not? I dreamed big, kind of. My family believed in my dream, and we all moved over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So in Romania, there's a big difference between the West and the East. Is it the East where you were raised, would you say more related to maybe, I'm gonna take, I guess, the old Russian communist?
Exactly.
Yes? Okay.
Exactly that.
Okay.
So it's very much you can tell the reminiscence of the communist times in those parts, whereas the Western side, I think, had more influence from the Germans, Hungary, a lot of, the Austrian Empire before.
Yes.
So you can see the difference in architecture as well. Like the buildings there are, more, I don't know what the style is called, to be honest, but a lot more aesthetic. Whereas my side, the eastern side, I am actually, my hometown is at the border with Moldova and Ukraine, so very much eastern. And I guess that side had more influences from the Russians, the actual the Ottoman Empire as well. So you can tell it's not as modernized, and it's a lot you can see a lot of these huge gray buildings. The city just looks gray because there's concrete everywhere. Where the communist regime just built these huge huge blocks of flats to just cram as many people in as
Yeah.
possible. And it's like an old, my town is an old industrial town where there used to be the biggest like steel factory.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess like a lot of pollution, a lot of like, yeah, I just felt like it wasn't for me.
Mhm. So you came here to study, and what did you study in uni? What was your undergraduate?
So undergrad was biomedical sciences,
Okay.
but then my master's was in neuroscience. I kind of specialized in neuroscience after that. So
And what made you choose neuroscience?
I guess I've always been fascinated with people's like behaviors and what like, but even biomedical sciences is like a very, very like zoomed in version of like what happens in our bodies, and then I wanted like a more zoomed in version of what happens in our minds. I guess I've always been in this pursuit, like philosophical pursuit of like what makes us us, what is consciousness, what is all of that. So I thought studying neuroscience will kind of give me a little bit of like insight into that. But
Did they give you the answers that you were looking for?
well, it gave me some answers, I guess. Like, you know, I did learn from a scientific perspective how our brain works, but was that enough to inform what actually consciousness is? It wasn't like I couldn't, and I think science still struggles with finding a gap, bridging that gap between okay, this is how the brain cells work and this is the current transmitted, but how does that actually, like the brain is just like another organ, like the you know, like the liver. Well, it's not really, but like in terms of science, you know, like yes, we have mapped out everything,
But we don't know
but we
how
have no idea. It's
connects.
like when you look at the painting,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, I can see exactly the colors and the technique of how it's been painted, but does that actually tell me of the feeling that I get when I look at the painting, or what the artist felt when like what they were expressing? No. So I guess after uni I went on this quest to like find out what is consciousness.
And is neuroscience, do you learn psychology in neuroscience, or is purely clinical work?
It's actually not even clinical. Like it was more like a lot of my work was learning about the neurons and how, you know, the current is being transmitted in the brain, and a lot of it, like here in Southampton, is based on Alzheimer's disease, because this is kind of like the most prevalent thing that's, you know, happening at the moment. Like I guess this is where the funding is, you know, on like dementia and Alzheimer's disease, which, to be honest, this is what I did my my dissertation in, but it wasn't, I always felt like it's not a case close to my heart, cause close to my heart. I always felt like it's something that, you know, it was there, so I had to do it.
Yeah.
But I did do some psychology modules, and this is where my love for psychology started. Yeah, I found psychology very much aligned with you know what I guess what I wanted to do, because I didn't know at that point what I wanted to do. They were very much aligned with my beliefs, and kind of started to answer some of the questions, some of the deep questions that I had. And at that point, I was struggling with my mental health and kind of not.
So it was like a way to not only look for answers, but also give a meaning to the search, no? And kind of like, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm having these issues, as you said. How can I get to a point to understand myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much that, like, you know, yeah, what makes us like conscious, what is consciousness, but also like, yeah, very like a personal point of view. Like, I'm kind of like not very happy with my worldview at the moment, like the way I live my life at the moment and the beliefs I have. I'm just not happy with. So it was kind of like, yeah, this search of how can I change that.
In your journey, what are the things that have that you have learned that have like leave a bigger impression on you? Like, if you had to describe the human mind in a way, like if you had to describe, if you have to point out five points of what you think makes a person, for example, journey their life in an easier way, what would they be?
That's an
Is that very
interesting. I'll
broad
try to
question?
find 5 for you.
5 or whatever number it is.
Whatever number
Yeah.
will come. I guess as I start as I
Yeah.
start saying, there'll probably be more. What makes
Yeah, what makes it, what would you think is something that makes it easier to navigate a mental journey? Because everybody has a mental journey, isn't?
Yeah. Well, the first and the biggest one is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you will never change where you are by hating where you are right now. Like, kind of hate yourself better. You'll only love yourself better. So I guess the first step is accepting, yes, I am, I'm depressed or I am struggling right now, and I love myself even like this. Is like showing yourself that unconditional love. But again, that's very hard because not all of us have been shown unconditional love growing up.
Yes.
So it's hard to come up with these, out of thin air, like, oh yes, acceptance for myself if you've never been shown that. But, with therapy or with, other types of inner work, you can get to this place of accepting where you are, like accepting that you're struggling and, literally treating yourself. I always heard this quote that I really like, is talk to yourself like you would to someone you love. Because imagine someone you love would come to you and say,
with an issue,
like, I'm really struggling right now, like the world just seems too much for me. You wouldn't say, well, why does it seem too much for you? Like, you wouldn't show them judgment because you love them. So you'd try to help, and you'd try to say, it's okay to feel like this,
I'm thinking, could it be that sometimes when we are dealing with people or trying to help them, and compared to how we treat ourselves, could it be that because we know our own capacities, but we don't know the other person's, we treat them more in a more fragile way? Could it be?
Yeah, I guess maybe. I think what it is we have, I don't know, we can't treat ourselves as we treat it. We can, but like, it's not our automatic, our automatic, I guess, inner critic is something internalized from, growing up. So we are going to treat ourselves like the people who raised us treated us. And that's not to say that all of us that have a harsh inner critic have had like a very bad upbringing. It's just maybe something, this element of like self-love or not judging, just that has lacked. Maybe our parents, a lot of the times our parents didn't, maybe their parents didn't show them love.
True.
So it's like this perpetuation of this cycle. And, I love my parents. I've done a lot of work to like, heal what was there. And I know, and, they did their best. And this is always going to be the case, like our parents really did their best with what they had. And, so we are doing our best with what we have.
No, on a personal note, I feel my inner work with my parents was to go to the conclusion that in the end, they're, as you said, they're human beings that have been treated and upraised in a way, and that's the tools they were given, and those are the tools that they used to raise us. So finding that compassion with them or for them also helped me to find compassion with myself. And that's one of the most beautiful things, because you start to see your parents as these little kids in a grown ass body
Yeah.
who are trying to navigate life the same way as you do, and you kind of take them off that pedestal where you usually put your parents, no, when you are growing up, and put them on the same level and say, hey man, that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to I accept your imperfection, because I know that even though you probably were trying to be the best that you can, or even some parents even try to portray this perfectionist figure, no? Like I'm your father and your mother. Everything that I say has to, you know, but no, is seeing them as human beings. I think the biggest lesson to heal your relationship with your parents. In my case was
Yeah, and to see them as human beings,
Yeah.
and I mean, if later on we get into more like spiritual things, but I do
Yeah.
believe that like an astrology and like placements, like we come into this world in a constellation, they call it, of like in the family we come in.
Yeah.
It's a perfect kind of orchestration of that gives us the tools to live the life we're going to have, and to have this spiritual journey, and it all ties in really great. But that was one.
That was one. I'm curious, after you finished your masters, how long did it take you to find have you found your purpose, first of all? Do you think you have?
I think I have. Yeah, but it took me maybe 3 or 4 years, I think, after I graduated, to find it. Like,
how did that journey start?
Yeah, I guess, as I was saying, so as I was doing my masters, I felt like I'm kind of going through the motions. Like, this is kind of what I want to do, but not really. Like, as I said, like the Alzheimer's, wasn't really a cause close to my heart. I felt like mental health was, but then, sometimes the mind gets in the way, because there's the limitation of, well, I don't have a psychology degree, so I can't really go into working in psychology. The only route is to go be a support worker. But then when you've got a master's degree and parents that, hold you to a high standard of like, you should, now you have a master's, you should earn a certain amount. I didn't really want to go and be a support worker, because like, you don't need uni to go be a support worker.
So it kind of limits your potential. Yeah,
and I kind of, stopped myself. So I went and did a few jobs that had nothing to do with my degree, like admin jobs and like receptionist jobs, just to like, have like an easy path. But whenever someone would ask me like, oh, what are you doing at the moment? Like I could feel this like, I guess this like hole of like unfulfilled potential, like I can do so much more. But my mind was getting in the way of like, I just didn't have like a proper, I don't know, plan outline or anything like that. So I think so I was working in 2020 or 2021, something like that. Like during COVID, I was working in a COVID lab. And again, like it was kind of like the perfect path from my degree. But I just felt like this isn't what I want to do. Like lab work isn't what I want to. I want to work with people. So that's when I like really realized, no, I need to work with people. So I did it. I did go and become a support worker, like in mental health.
In the end, it was.
In the end, I did. So after like 3 years of telling myself no, 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 so I found myself like I kept applying for support worker jobs and then not going for them, because I was like, no, I deserve so much better. But then in the end, like my friend was working like in for a mental health support company here in Southampton, working with young people, and she was telling me about like what great work they do. So I felt like, and she helped me get this like an interview there, and I went, and it was all so aligned. And when I started working, I worked with this young person, and just our interaction was like so healing for both of us. Like, they weren't they weren't able to leave the house. They weren't doing a lot of the things that a young person would do. And when I started working there, like we formed this bond of like friendship, and we started going, when I was working, because like part of my job was like to spend a 12-hour shift with them, and just support them with whatever, shopping or whatever they wanted to do, even if that was like go for a coffee or go for a walk. So we started like slowly getting out, on their own terms, not when it's dark, not things like that. And ended up like actually seeing their friends, with them. And it's like, and their friends were like, wow, I haven't seen them in so long. It's like
so rewarding, no?
Yeah, it was so rewarding to see that I could make a difference into someone's lives like that. But obviously, you have to really control how much you get involved as well. And obviously boundaries of like, outside of work, we are not friends, like at work, whilst I'm on shift and I get paid for this, like it's okay, but outside of work. Anyways.
Did you agree with that completely?
Sort of. It's like, well, boundaries are like you're not allowed to hug them, but then, sometimes like they're crying, they're like, it's like you can't really just, even in my work at the moment, like, because I still work in mental health, but I see people like less. I see them for like a half an hour to 1 hour session. Yeah, you're not allowed to hug them, but I have patients that I've seen for 2 years, and sometimes they just have a really bad day, and they come there and they cry and they open up, and I do give them a hug, or like just like a touch on the shoulder. Like touch is really powerful, but again, it can be misused. So with judgment, with discernment, I think yes. I can, I let myself, break these rules sometimes. But, these rules are in place because things have happened before. People have entered relationships with people they were like caring for, and, psychiatrists and patients, and it's like dynamics are very, very like, they can form very strong and like attachment and things like that. So,
and I guess that people sometimes forget that maybe that professionals are still human beings. They still, like, of course, they portray it as professionals because that's what they are and that's what they do. But as you said, some of them have made, for example, the mistake of getting into a relationship with one of their patients, and they know it's wrong, but at the same time, they have feelings and they're human. Exactly.
And a lot of therapists, like, and healers and whatever you want to call them, we come into this profession as like the wounded healer. Like we have, and I can speak for my own journey. Like I have healed some wounds, and it is this that informs how I work with people. And this is, I think, what I'm best at, is helping people with the issues that I've had before. Like, because I'm like, I know exactly how you feel. This is why I find it so easy to work with people who have dealt with depression, because I've been there. And I know that if someone comes to you and is really, really down, telling them, maybe you should go for a run. Have you thought of going for a run? Have you thought of reading this positive thinking book? Have you thought of maybe not worrying about things? That's not going to help. Just a safe, loving presence there, being like, hey, man, it's okay. Like, it's part of being a human. Like, I'm here, like, you are loved, even if you are feeling down and you feel like you're letting down people. Just treat it like a cold, like give yourself time to recover. If something was really hurting in your physical body, you wouldn't tell yourself, oh, I should get over this and no, like,
you give yourself time.
Give yourself time to heal. Like, don't just, there's a lot. Don't expect yourself to just be better. You have to like really, really work on yourself. But as I was saying earlier, like the acceptance is the first aspect. When you just like allow yourself to be there, love yourself when you're there, like Maybe by getting friends, you know, to like, or loved ones to
Yeah.
like, you know, show you that compassion. Maybe you can start to, or like a professional, you know, going to therapy. This is why I think going to therapy, or like someone who can give you like an opinion, but that someone that maybe is not your friend or family.
Yeah.
Because again, dynamics. Someone that you have no dynamic with, you know, that can look, you know, from the outside and, you know, give you like a little bit of guidance, or just this support for you to like get back to yourself.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I feel also to get out of this mindset, like, you know how they usually say time heals, but time, I feel like time, giving yourself time without being proactive on actually helping yourself or looking for help,
Yeah.
it's also kind of pointless, no?
There's a fine balance, yeah. But I think because obviously depression comes with, from a brain perspective, comes with like this reduced ability to try new things.
Yeah.
Reduced ability to engage, or even like anhedonia is called, like you just don't find joy in things like you used to. So even like seeing a friend is like not as rewarding as it used to be. Watching your favorite cartoons from when you were, you know, like young, if that's what makes you like used to make you happy, might not give you the same response. So you know, it's like, it's really like like it is as much a brain issue as well, like over time. Like I think this is like part of kind of my mission, is to spread awareness about helping, like preventing mental health illness before it gets to the point where like your brain gets, you know, like like more depressed. Like it goes from like mild to moderate depression, you know, it goes to like you know, it's like harder to recover from. So treat it when it's at the beginning.
I'm curious, what will be 5 signs of early depression? What would they be?
I guess low motivation.
Okay.
This like realizing that the things you used to do don't really
Like,
interest you that much. Feeling like isolating yourself from people.
Okay.
Just for me, I know that it's different for everyone, but for me, it's a low motivation comes with like, it's almost like my body is heavier.
Yes.
I feel like my body is heavier, and it takes, genuinely, when you feel like your body is heavier, it will take more effort to move than before, right? Like, you know, your perceived effort in moving, you know, it would just be larger because you feel heavy. It's almost like you've got some weights on you, you know, and you have to get up, and you're like, not really, I don't have the energy for it, you know. And yeah, just feeling tired, sleeping a lot. And I guess from there then, you know, substance misuse, like drinking a lot, although you know that the next day you're going to feel not great, but you're drinking to get out of that. So any like avoidance behavior, like any behavior to like numb your feelings, I guess. So then again, everyone copes differently with it. These are a few signs, I'd say.
In your journey, have you suffered depression?
Yes. Are you gonna like cut out this part?
No.
Or like, no. Natural. Yes. Yeah, I have suffered from depression. I think I've always, well, the first actual time when I had like a breakdown was when I was working at the hospital where we met.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I was I was in my master's degree then, and I was working at the hospital. And as you know as well, it's a very fast paced, very stressful. It can be very like a lot of work.
Which year was this? 2018?
18,
Yeah.
2018, 2019, because
Okay.
I graduated in 2019, so
Yeah.
it would have been like end of 2018 where like I
Yeah.
was writing my dissertation.
Because when we first met, it was in 2016.
I think so.
So you were when we met. Were you already in uni, or were you?
I
not?
think so, because I started uni 2015.
'Cause-
Literally came to the UK, and within a month I started uni.
So how did you do with student fine? Did you went?
I applied from Romania.
Ah,
I applied in Romania. I had this like company which would help you with like
Okay.
financing your studies, like applying for you for UCAS and everything. You just gave them your details and they
Okay.
applied for you. So I did that. It was like quite popular. A lot of people.
Yeah,
did
I
that.
remember people from Spain, Portugal.
Yeah, so I did that and like started working within 2 weeks of coming to the UK. Started working at the hospital
Oh,
because my
wow.
mom was already working there.
Right.
And then like a month after started uni as
Yeah.
well, which I found quite challenging, you
Yeah.
know, like adapting and all of that. I felt quite, you know, alien at
Yeah.
uni. But anyway, back to the question.
No, because I was asking because I think I only realized that you were studying in the last year you were working there.
Okay.
Because I remember you stopped hanging out as much because probably you were busier. But I remember you were busier and you weren't working as many hours as you used to, no?
Yeah.
And then I think I asked you and you said, yeah, I'm studying. You study? How do you know? Okay.
Yeah, I was doing my master's then. And it just became too much. And I think at the same time, like, because things had become too much and I was going through a breakup at the time as well,
Okay.
I'd started like going out a lot and, you know, drinking a lot and doing things that were like out of character and out of like impulsivity. And that made me fall out with certain people at work. And then from hanging out with like lots of people at work, I found myself like not feeling welcome to hang out with those people anymore.
Well, we were talking isolating yourself, no? One of the signs.
But then in the same, it was kind of like I see how it was like all aligned and meant to be,
Yeah.
because then I started spending my time in the library at the hospital,
Okay.
like, and reading and writing my dissertation and really focusing on myself.
All right.
Rather than, you know, sitting in the canteen and having like, as I was saying,
Small
like
talk.
mindless
Yeah.
small talk, you know.
Mm.
But it, like, you know, I do look at it now and I feel like, oh, so aligned and everything. But what I was going through emotionally, like feeling ostracized from the group, feeling like the people that were, you know, my friends, like now they turn their head the other way when they see me at work. So, you know, in the same time, it felt like, yeah, that's when I had this like dark night of the soul. Like everything was happening, like my breakup, and, you know, the person I broke up with was working in the hospital as well. So, right. Everything was happening. So, yeah, I was like going out drinking to cope with it, but then that would result in even more like trauma, you know, perpetuating this, like, so yeah, that's when I realized, you know, like I'm really struggling with my mental health. So I took some time off work. You know, I went to the doctor and I was like, I'm getting panic attacks before going to work. Like I really don't want to. And it wasn't just work. It was just, I guess, the stress of it all. Like, you know, we all have a certain capacity for how much stress, and that we can't really control that.
Yeah.
So
and there's no shame. There's no shame on the amount of, because different people, different amounts of, as you said, copeness with the stress.
This is inbuilt in us from when we're like 6 months, you know. It's the cortisol levels. The cortisol is like stress hormone. And like your sensitivity to this cortisol is like literally, it's like programmed in you from like 6 months old, and then you work with that your whole life. And I have a quite low threshold for when things become too overwhelming and too stressful. So I'm not one of those people that, oh, just push through and you'll be fine. I'll push through and I'll break, literally. So, and that was my first break. You know, apart from like teenage years when
Yeah.
it was like all chaotic, but then, you know, hormones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first time that I really felt like I felt very, very low, very, very down. Yeah, I was like, as I said, isolating myself, you know, but then I started like really delving deep into, because, you know, it helped that I already had this interest in human behavior and what I was studying. So I started reading books about like more philosophy. But then, you know, as I was saying to you, as I stopped hanging out with the usual people I used to hang out at the hospital, I started hanging out with this person that I would have never considered that I would. And he recommended me a book. And, you know, it turns out we started having these like very like interesting chats about spirituality and things like that. And he recommended me this book called The Master Key System.
By who?
Which,
Do you remember?
Charles F. Hannell, I think he's called, or something like that. And it's a book that I no longer resonate with actually now because I try to go back to it and it just doesn't resonate that much with me anymore. It's a very like, I guess, written in a very masculine way of spirituality. Like these are some rules, do this, and this, and you'll be better.
Yeah.
But I guess the way he was describing like the subconscious mind and how to focus your attention, like I think he talks about how basic master key system, like the master key system of like life, you know.
Yeah. As if there was a set list of rules to follow.
Yeah, literally. And there's different chapters with different like, you know, rules. And I actually like how he explains, you know, he kind of explains from a rational point of view the chakras, and it was a good way for my very, very rational mind at the time, very scientific mind, to get into this. Like, it was a good gateway into spirituality because I felt, okay, this makes sense. Yes, we do have pools of energy in our body because we do have, like, because I knew the nervous system has different ganglia that, like, you know, like are concentrated in one area. So I thought, okay, it makes sense. There's more energy in that area, right? So, okay, I stuck with the book.
Because each creates a different hormone, no? I guess. Gland. Oh no.
Yeah, there's the glands as well, but then the actual nervous, like the electricity in those areas is like you know, obviously they radiate, you know, there's just more movement, I guess, of energy in that area. I don't know how to explain it, but but he talks about like how we have a conscious and a subconscious mind, and then you can, that if you feed your subconscious mind with what you want and your goals and your things like that, and you just don't really worry about how you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Like you will, you know, it's like it's your subconscious mind that you have to train to get to where you want to get to, not your conscious mind.
Okay.
You know, so I guess that changed my perspective, and I started, because I had no friends anymore. I just randomly met this guy. I still can't remember how, but he was Indian, and he told me about this yoga class, and I had been meaning to try yoga anyway. But turns out I go there. It's called Sahaja Yoga. Turns out I go there and it's not yoga. It's like a meditation. Well, it is yoga, but not yoga as we know it, as in like the, you know, the poses and the movement. There was no movement in it.
Okay.
You would sit down in meditation pose, and you would try to raise this energy from the base of your spine up and lock it, you know.
Is it true that the energy from the lowest chakra is really important? The sexual chakra?
Yeah, the Kundalini energy, you know. And only now I realize, now I look back and I'm like, I was raising my Kundalini, but I didn't know. So again, my very rational mind, I was sitting there so skeptical about the whole thing. Like, you know, they were explaining how there's these two energies, these two channels in the body that, so I was like thinking in rational terms, like, I guess, you know, the spine has this like energy because it's got the neurons flowing through.
Yeah.
So I was trying to really like stick with like non-judgment of what was being said. But what really changed things for me was that they were like, you raise this thing and you really focus your energy on the crown of your head, and then you put your hand above and you will feel cool air, a cool breeze. And I tried to do it. So I went to this thing for about 2 months, I think, every week. Like I really, really stuck with it. And I tried every week. And sometimes I would feel it. I'd feel like this cold breeze in my palm. And like I would explain it like, oh, it's probably just the difference in temperature from my warm hand that was on my head, and when I raise it, then my palm feels the temperature difference between. So very rational. But then at the end, like at the end of this course, they had an advanced part, like the next hour. So they had like beginners, intermediates, and then they had advanced. So I stayed for the advanced.
This is the yoga course.
The yoga course, yeah. I stayed for the advanced part. And like after 2 hours of meditating on my crown chakra and trying to like raise my kundalini, like, I'm not joking, I could actually feel it. And I could feel other people's as well. Like we went around and we were feeling each other's like cool breeze emanating at the top of our heads, you know? And that like really broke through my conditioning of what I thought was like possible.
Is it true that if it's blocked, because if for somebody who has never done any of these workshops, therapy, their crown chakra is blocked, so they won't feel as much, no? Probably.
Yeah. I guess it depends. I'm not an expert in this, you know. Apparently, I had an energy healing, and apparently, you know, my crown chakra is like it's only starting to open. You know, I think there's a lot of work to do there, but I guess the more open you are to it, you know. I think at that time, you know, something had shifted, and I was a bit more open to these things, you know. But that was 2018 where I feel like, you know, with this yoga thing that I was doing, with isolating myself and starting to read books and things like that, but this was all while I was, you know, quite depressed.
Yeah.
It changed the way I saw things, I guess. So
I'm thinking the way that book resonated with you back then, you think it was because you were more connected to your masculine energy back in that time?
I guess so. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I guess the rational part of my brain is the masculine.
Yeah.
The I need to understand. I need to, you know, the structure. I need things to make sense. I think maybe that was more my masculine side. And it was like, what can I do? You know, for the masculines of like doing. You know. So I have probably a lot of masculine because I'm a Leo, we're ruled by the sun.
Okay.
Like sun is is a energy of like doing and masculine. So I do have this thing, but like, you know, as we were chatting earlier, I was out of touch with my feminine side. So it was more like I was treating my depression as in like, what can I do to make this better?
How I
so
feel.
like, so let me go and read these books. I started going to the gym and it helped. And so then after that I was like, I'm gonna share with everyone how you can cure depression by reading self-help books and going to the gym, and which is, you know, literally what is kind of being shared nowadays.
And what's mainstream? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's not all there is. And I would tell people, so I, you know, funnily enough, the universe then brought me into a relationship where my ex-partner was depressed. And I kept telling him, if only you change how you think, you know, and things like that. I kept telling him things that were just so invalidating now that I look back.
Yeah.
So invalidating to how he was feeling. And, you know, lo and behold, it didn't help him and we broke up, you know. But now I look back and I'm like, I would never say that to someone because, you know, I then went through another bout of depression recently. And, you know, even before then, like I started looking more into like exploring my feminine side and the emotions aspect and, you know, added the layer of, you know, emotions to all of this. to all of this.
And I feel we live in the current culture there's a big division between feminine and masculine. No, we've over the last decades we've kind of pushed each other apart and create this kind of war between men and women. When in reality, I believe many people understand that as a man or as a woman, independently of what you are or what you identify with, we all have these two energies within us.
Yes.
And it's important to create or find a balance that works for you, no?
I think the war is not necessarily around like men and women, but more like the feminine energy and the feminine aspect of us.
Mm-hmm. And what makes a man and what makes a woman, no?
Yeah, it's more like we've embraced so much like development of our mind and our understanding of scientific and productivity, and our worth is in what we do and how much we earn, and these are all like masculine concepts. On the other side, we've neglected so much like our relationship with nature and the earth, how we feel as well, but like it's just in the world, like the state of like the planet at the moment, and how much like people are profiting off literally taking the resources of the earth and not like giving anything back. This like the energy of taking,
it's like an abusive relationship. The analogy
is like the energy of taking is very masculine, and it's fine, but like, and where like us like women or like feminine energy are more like about the giving, the nurturing, the loving,
And there needs to be an exchange of both energies.
Exactly. There needs to be a balance. But in the world, I think there's been this thing of like, oh, let me just take, cut the trees, like whatever I need to do to like make more money and thrive. And it's like, okay, we've developed technologically, like we're great, advanced in terms of AI and all of that, but like how's our relationship with like literally the place we live in? Like, how connected are we with where we are, like the indigenous, the land, like with the nature
the
around
roots,
us, the roots, we're not, that's the thing, we're not like, I feel like we're not rooted
enough.
Enough, well, maybe most of us are, but like some of us are, but maybe
it's kind of, we're trying to get to a headspace above what we actually come from, which is the land will be our heart and the mind will be this hypothetical place that we want to get. That is impossible, because no matter how much wealth you accumulate, you never feel fulfilled, really.
And it's like all these people that are accumulating so much wealth in the world, like the billionaires, like if they only had the heart as well, to go with that mind that creates abundance, or like finances, like all that money would go into the places in the world that need it, how many charities and things like that would need funding, and like all these money, these like billionaires are literally hogging all the money for themselves, so it's like,
and it's also so connected to the economical system, no? Capitalism, extreme
definitely.
capitalism, this feudalistic vision of I'm gonna become so big, I'm gonna have so many people working for me, and I'm not worrying about, and then AI comes into place. Now, I'm not gonna worry about job positions, so I'm just gonna make it as productive as possible so that I can get the most of it. Do you agree with being millionaires and this culture of what would you say, entrepreneuring in a let's take it to the extreme, not to what we were talking about. Do you agree with that pursuit of wealth rather than purpose? No, simply put.
I agree with something that's in between, because find your purpose, follow the purpose, but like do it in the so this is my mantra, for the spiritual benefit of all beings. So don't do it just for yourself. I feel like again, another thing that capitalism has bred was very individualistic. Like, I want to accumulate wealth for myself, but like your purpose.
Some people will say for myself and my circle, my family. Many people think I'm gonna buy a house to my mother or whatever.
Which is nice, but not a lot of people actually like. That's a nice thing that you think about, like the immediate family, but the other people are just like, no, for myself.
Yeah.
And I guess like this notion of community hasn't like, it's great if one person wants to like accumulate wealth and they feel like this is their purpose, so that they can help their immediate community and make the lives of everyone around them better. But again, what for? Like, if everyone, I feel like money is wealth is an interesting concept because it can really change you.
Did you know that in China they have a god of money?
A what?
A god of money, a money god, per se.
Okay, yeah.
And they praised
The money god.
Yeah. Well, I just found out recently. I'm like, wow, that's mad, man. So I had this Chinese coworker, and she was telling me that how in the new Chinese year, they always praise and then how you say it, but they have this god and they praise to it and ask for money, and they would even tell each other. They wouldn't even say Happy New Year. They would say, I hope you get rich.
Wow.
Yeah. So to me, that's like a very dystopic reality. I don't like what.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. But yeah, a lot of, I guess, don't know. Money equals survival nowadays, I guess. So then they have this very like they have their like social scoring system. Or
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how it works. I'm not
me
sure
neither, but I think it like goes hand in hand. Like there's a hierarchy there. Like a clear social hierarchy. So that's why maybe like they just wish each other like evolution, because that's what evolution is for them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense, because kind of the Chinese miracle was getting when the communists or whatever party it is, like communist, I'm not sure, I think it's communist, established in the 60s. Their main goal was to get as many people as possible out of poverty, So this culture of working for the country altogether, and now the level of wealth has been raised exponentially, like crazy. Like there's more rich people in China and probably in many places in the
I
world.
didn't know that, but
Yeah.
But and it's again the distribution of resources, I guess, is not great. Because if you look at the world, like if only we treated, I know this is very like airy fairyland, but if you do zoom out of boundaries of countries and things like that and looked at the world, the concentration of wealth, it's like we're so connected now, social media, everything, everyone knows everything about everyone and stuff like that, but like the wealth of the world is concentrated in places, and then people still starve to death in other places of the world. There's war in other places of the world, so it's like this division, this like,
Do you think that if, let's say, there was a world government and they set a bar of wealth that you can achieve so that everybody has the same opportunity, do you think that would work? Or do you think, do you think that by our human condition we tend to be egoistic and selfish?
No, I don't think that's our nature, although maybe evolutionary biologists would agree otherwise. But there are like, like wolves work in packs, right?
But they only look for themselves. They wouldn't think as a more globally, a bigger, wider community, as for example, an ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, they are kind of part of an ecosystem.
They are,
and
but
like,
I mean,
but again, there's
taking
hierarchy.
the analogy,
There's hierarchy, so I guess, yeah, I don't know about that one.
I do believe in humankind. I do believe that we are meant to do better. I also know for a fact that there are souls in this world that are on a different journey. The conscious maybe is not meant to grow as much. Understand maybe these concepts of collectiveness and community, and how can I understand that serving others is a higher purpose than just looking for myself, no?
Yeah.
But I have hopes, and I feel like we are awakening globally in a way. I've heard that the Earth frequency changed, no, recently. Is that true? Are you aware or not?
I've heard that like the Kundalini of the Earth, but I don't quote me on this because I don't know that much about it. But like the Kundalini of the Earth, which is like where the energy is like most like
Focused.
strongest, most focused, has changed to Peru, to the jungle.
Oh, really? To Peru specifically?
Yeah.
Such an interesting fact.
There's a book about it. I don't know the name, but I can send you some more resources after.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, I have hopes that humanity will we will evolve. It's probably quite slow, and we will have to be at the pace of like I mean AI is like so like evolving so much, and it's but I do have from like when we met, I mean, we both kind of like, kind of raised our consciousness. So, if you and me did, then.
No, and as I was saying you before, I think you're one of the first people that back in the day when I saw your change, or that you were changing, kind of gave me the hope of thinking people can actually change, because I used to think that people couldn't change because we have this default, and no matter how hard we try, we're just gonna fall again into those patterns, which we do, but we can work through them and learn to adapt and not control them. I feel like control is a very strong word, like very, as you said, masculine, as in like, and if I lose control, that's the worst, and I'm gonna feel so ashamed. No, it's more like navigate those conditions and those automatic mindsets, would you say? But and above, I feel like you were one of the first people that actually gave me a perspective of, okay, so people can actually change, and change drastically, because obviously we all grow, we change, but not many people feel like do such a heavy change, as in like breaking their foundations, understanding that maybe what they thought was a reality is not anymore, and are okay with changing and flowing, So
just because we're very attached to our identity, and we don't realize that it's just a mask, and like just something that it's not actually us. We can wear another mask, or like we can embrace a different, like, I guess, archetype, or bring in some other qualities, and we can. I think like we say, we can create our own reality, and we can create ourselves, like bodybuilding, but like mind building, psyche building. I guess obviously we all have our tendencies towards different things, but I guess with learning, like knowing ourselves, we learn to know others as well, and
and identify different patterns as well in others. No, interesting.
But there is like one word of caution. When you do have an awakening, it can make you feel like, oh, I'm better than everyone now.
Fall into the egotistical part.
Literally, like I've awakened, and I'm back to the ego with this awakening. And all I'm taking from it is that, I'm better than everyone now. Look at you all people, unawakened.
Peasants.
You're all asleep, and I'm awakened now. And I've gone through that. Trust me, I've gone through that one too. But then, coming back to being humble, and, I have so much more to learn, So, focusing on my journey and not what everyone else is doing. Because as you said, not everyone has to awaken. Like, it's not in everyone's path to awaken. We come in this world with karma, and, a lot of baggage, and maybe it's not the work that we do in this lifetime that we clear that baggage.
This incarnation.
Yeah. Maybe it isn't.
I was gonna say a very humble lesson. I think it was what you said, that in the end, after so many years trying different jobs, kind of running away of that low income job that will
Low income and low not recognition, but
in a way,
status,
status,
like from masters in neuroscience. Like I used to like have this ego thing where like people ask me, so what do you study? And I'd say neuroscience, and I knew they would say, oh, because they would. You're like, oh, okay,
oh, you're
so
smart.
You're smart. That's it, and I liked that.
Yeah.
So then to be like, oh, well, I'm a support worker. Oh, okay, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like very much attached to that.
Or the typical, so you spend so much money and so much time studying for just working on a low income job, whatever.
My dad. I love you.
Okay. So in your journey, did you encounter any, because many people, for example, try distant substances to connect with themselves, or what they say, sometimes it's ayahuasca, sometimes it's psychedelics. Have you ever tried any of those?
Yeah, so I feel like this has been a big part of my journey of awakening, actually. So I first started with weed, actually, but obviously when I first found weed, there was like in a social context, never tried it before. I was about 18 or 19. But at first it wasn't for awakening. It was just like it made me make sense of the world better. I always felt like my brain works differently on weed than other people on weed, because people say, oh, it makes me go to sleep, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It makes me so creative. Like I used to like smoke weed and study because it made me understand everything and such, like, because weed connects your brain better.
How's the word? It dilates? No, that's not the word. It relaxes your neurons, no, in a way, so that the connections are faster. Is that true?
I don't know about that, but I know that it like makes your brain fire. So basically, how it works is like we have an inner, like, it's called an endocannabinoid system in our body.
Okay.
So we have receptors for
like
cannabis. That link to parts of our brain and activate them, and then our brain talks to parts of our brain talk to each other more efficiently and in ways that we wouldn't before when we were sober. Obviously I didn't know any of this. I was just doing it because my boyfriend at the time was smoking, so I was smoking, and I felt good, and I was high, and music felt differently, and movies felt differently, food felt differently,
sex, everything.
It was just everything.
So
but I noticed that when I would do it every day, like it wasn't good for me. Like I would feel irritable. I would feel depressed after. Like like anything in moderation, But I do feel even now, like I would smoke once a week, once every 2 weeks, but with an intention, because like weed is a plant, and I'm a really firm believer in plant medicine, and I think all plants can teach us something, and in moderation, don't even get me started on like tobacco. Like tobacco is a plant,
it's a plant.
In South America and like indigenous cultures, they were using tobacco to communicate. So tobacco was like what helped them communicate with other plant spirits. It was like the initiator, I guess, and it's very they say it has this very masculine presence, which makes sense that now we are tobacco addiction is very much a thing, because we're abusing it so much.
Plus the tobacco they sell commercially has nothing to do with the plant originally.
Yeah, so because we've overbred it, put chemicals on it, but it's we're really abusing this plant that otherwise. So in shamanic traditions, they use this powder tobacco, and they use it they kind of
inhale it.
They use a special pipe, and they blow it up your nose, and like tobacco has such grounding like ability. Like
Yeah.
once you take it, you like literally feel like someone's pushing you in the ground.
Okay.
And it's like, but you feel that like addiction element of like it really like obviously we have nicotine receptors in the brain as well, and it really makes your mind like really sharp and focused, but also works on our addiction system. So that's where like the moderation comes
Yeah.
in, and those who are prone to addiction will will then go into that side of like
I guess that's
darker side.
why that's why when people smoke, they feel like, oh, I feel so relief, no?
Yeah.
But I've also heard that when you become addictive, that feeling of just inhaling, and your brain kind of tricks you to thinking that you're breathing, no?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
breathing.
yeah.
But now that you said that it has that effect on pushing you down, like kind of
grounding you. Yeah.
grounding you, it kind of makes sense that people when they smoke, they feel this, finally, like I'm sitting down in a way, no?
That's exactly it. And like people use it for like going for cigarette breaks, and maybe you just needed a break, like to breathe,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
like socially,
Yeah.
like let's all go out for a smoke. Like if you're at the club,
Yeah.
let's all go out for a smoke.
Or when
Like
people do
actually,
cocaine.
maybe you just wanted like to not have that loud music and
Yeah.
to just actually be able to socialize, and you needed an excuse.
Yeah, true, completely.
So I've definitely done that before. But yeah, so but coming back to psychedelics, yeah, like weed was the first, because weed can be psychoactive. It is
Yeah.
psychoactive. That was the first one that kind of like started opening my mind. And then studying neuroscience,
Yeah.
I learned about LSD, psilocybin, which is in mushrooms, and psychedelics that didn't have this potential for addiction. But they were working on the serotonin system of the brain, and they were talking about like hallucinations you can get with them. But then I went to look into the fact that there is actually research that back in the 60s they were using these substances to treat mental health disorders.
Okay.
They were using MDMA for couples therapy. They now actually MDMA is in trials for PTSD treatment for like veterans or other people who have PTSD. They're in like phase 3 trials, and
Which
there's
means
it's almost approved.
okay.
There's like in the last phase of being approved. Psilocybin, again, the substance in magic mushrooms, is also now being investigated, like researched as depression treatment. And there's many documentaries. I recommend Magic Medicine on Netflix, a great documentary about it. Or How to Change Your Mind is another one on Netflix that also by Michael Pollan is a book as well. He also talks about, it's actually different psychedelics. So he talks about acid, psilocybin, MDMA, and mescaline, which is the substance in cactus, in peyote, and San Pedro.
It's
So
fascinating to see that there's so many resources to what many, and I would personally say, modern world problems, mental health, no? And for example, I met a girl not so long ago. I'm not gonna give more reference, but I met a girl, as in like I'm not gonna say where she's from, but she will tell me, in my culture, pills are go-to. Like first thing you do when you have any issue,
pills.
And she would praise them, as in like, oh yeah, I love pills. Like, and she would tell me, I met this person, they told me they had depression, and I recommended them to go to a doctor and get some pills because it's amazing. I'm like, to me, it feels dystopian, yeah.
But it's kind of the same here in the UK, like, but it's this medical industry. You have a problem, you go into the doctor, and the doctor tells you what to do. But then, when it comes to your own mental health,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things, because obviously, like, as I was saying, women's issues. Go to a doctor, doesn't have a womb physically. Go to the doctor and say, like, I have pain with my period. They never experience that, like, you know, not that you have to experience, like if you treat cancer, you don't have to have had cancer,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a different thing. But like there's not that much research into like there hasn't been historically. Now there is research into women's issues. So you go to the doctor and they'll tell you just take contraceptives. So you're fine. Everyone has pain with their periods, and this is literally my journey. You know, like
Which
I
is,
just
it's
thought
not fine. I mean, it shouldn't be normal.
no, but it's been like that's the thing. A lot of things are normalized. Yeah, like depression. You know, it's like it's normal. Just take some pills and you'll feel better. But it's like it's not really. You know, like there's other things you can do. There's like I always feel like depression is just kind of like a nudge that from your own body that something's not working from what you're doing right now. Like something needs to change. And when you fail to identify that, then your body just gives up. It's like, you know, come on. Like, I just, you know, it's kind of like, I'm giving you signs that I can't do this anymore like this, you know? So it's like, please, please change something.
As cheesy as it sounds, your body's talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we were saying that's like your body and your mind communicate, and it's like, but the signals coming from your body to your mind are 80%, and then the mind to the body 20%. You know, so it's more like your body communicates to your mind. So it's first like your nervous system becomes like overwhelmed and then goes into depression because there's just so much there,
overstimulated,
and then your mind starts like when it receives these signals from the body that like I am, you know, I don't want to move, I'm in freeze, then your mind starts to like, oh, you know, like become hopeless and come up with all these like thoughts of like I don't want to do this anymore. But a lot of the time the I don't want to do this anymore is I don't want to do this anymore like this, or I want the pain to stop, not that I don't want to live anymore. I just don't want to live like this anymore, you know. And we don't have that ability to remember the times that we did feel good and to see that we will feel good again. We will surpass this. But in that moment it just feels so real.
Because it's real.
It is, yeah. It feels like what we're in right now is never going to pass. You know? So another mantra that I have is always this too shall pass. You know, even when you're happy, you know,
happiness
don't get identified. Don't become identified and attached with this happiness.
Euphoric feeling.
Like yes, allow yourself to enjoy it, but just prepare for the next part where things aren't going to be that happy, I guess.
The roller coaster of life, no?
It is, and we just, you know, life doesn't get easier. We just learn to surf these waves.
We learn to surf better. Yes.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you can add that to the 5 things. The 5 things.
We getting there. Yeah. So, in your journey, in your notes, I can see you were diagnosed with endometriosis. Explain a bit why it is, because I'm pretty sure that many women have also suffered from.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what I was saying a bit earlier. So I had like a lot of like pain with my periods that, you know, I was always told it's normal. Everyone has pain with their period, but mine were debilitating. Like I would come home from like school crying, like, and I would spend the whole day in bed crying. Really bad pains, and I would just take painkillers all the time, and sometimes I wouldn't manage to take them on time and the pain would kick in and wouldn't go away. So I've had this every month of my life since I was 14, and you know, and again, like no one ever noticed, you know. It's just,
and I'm thinking painkillers have a really bad side effect on the gut, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But then like I found these really strong ones that I only take one and I'll be fine. So even at the moment, like it's manageable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started actually with that pain to get like a lot of bloating and like symptoms that would like last for longer. And plus with that I would get like these really, really bad like down, almost like depression just before getting my period. It's called like PMDD, so premenstrual dysphoric disorder, in psychology terms. But then, you know, it's like a fluctuation of hormones, but it's so like abrupt,
Drastic, yeah.
so drastic, that I would like literally feel like I want to, like, you know, I want to die in those 3 days before my period.
Wow.
Like I was so like, it was so intense.
Yeah.
And then the pains after.
Did you take those days off work, or would you?
I tried to. I actually remember once at the hospital, I had a cramp so bad that I just collapsed.
Wow.
And like I had to go home.
Wow.
And it's hard to, the thing is, it's so hard to explain to people that I'm in pain because you can't see. Like if you've got a cut and you're bleeding, then, you know, people are, oh yeah, you need to go. But it's like my internal feeling of like, I'm in pain, but I shouldn't be in pain because everyone goes through this. So I was invalidating my own pain sometimes.
You can only hope so much on people's empathy. Empathy, yeah.
But yeah, so I went to the doctor. I realized, you know, something's not right. I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed with endometriosis like straight away, which, like, you know, usually it takes about 7 years to get a diagnosis with endometriosis. But for me, like, it was straight away because it was quite late stage, like quite advanced.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a wake up call for me to, like, you know, this is something quite big to be told at 22 that, you know, you might not be able to have children.
Wow.
Because this is why. So endometriosis is tissues growing out, tissue that's supposed to be only inside of your womb, like the lining of your womb, starts to grow outside, and it has this capacity to like respond to hormonal changes, you know, because it is like the tissue that's inside of your womb that's supposed to respond to hormonal changes. So yeah, it starts like bleeding, like internally, like, you know, and sticking everything there because it's like very sticky type of tissue. So mine was like, you know, like my ovaries were stuck to my uterus, which was stuck to my gut. So it was like impacting everything down there, you know, so everything was really painful.
Any more side effects apart from the pain? Like, I don't know, weight loss or weight gain or...
No. I think these are very like, I mean, some women have like a lot of bleeding. I didn't experience that. Some women have like irregular periods. I didn't experience that. So I guess, you know, everyone experiences it differently, but I guess one takeaway is if you do have like a lot of pain with your period, go and get it checked. And, like, really insist on it getting checked, because it's not normal. And another thing that we don't get taught as women is that you can change like your hormones and you can improve your pain.
You can regulate them.
Yeah, you can, you know, if you look at your diet and you start eating like anti-inflammatory foods, and actually there's a lot of, you know, in our shampoos and creams and things that we use, there's a lot of chemicals. There are endocrine disruptors. So if you chuck those away and go to more natural things, the makeup that we use and things like that, there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of things. Scented candles, again, very toxic. Very toxic, very endocrine disrupting as well. And yeah, I guess just coming back to like more natural things, and more organic. I don't like, you know, when it comes to diets, I've tried different diets and I found that I found like the perfect kind of balance for myself. More like a lifestyle than a diet.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, because people will correlate diet to the typical, like, very specific, restrictive kind of diet. Yeah, I cannot eat this, I cannot that. But as you say, if you make it a lifestyle, a habit, it just becomes even likable. Like, it becomes something that you actually want to follow because it makes you good.
Yeah, so I've managed to manage some of my symptoms, like the bloating that I had and the gut pain. I managed to changed that with diet.
Yeah.
Like, so I eliminated gluten and some other like inflammatory foods and opted for like more anti-inflammatory. And I found the balance. Then I got surgery for it because you know, I had quite like big cysts, and I thought those are probably gonna go away with diet changes. Like that's a lifetime accumulation of tissue there.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll help my body with this surgery. So I did that, and you know, it's better. Like, you know, like it hasn't come back since then. But I also did a lot of like, you know, that's kind of what started my, you know, like added to my spiritual journey. And I guess this is where the feminine, connecting to the feminine comes in, because I've realized like how did I always feel about my womb and being a woman. Well, I hated it. I hated being a woman. Women are, you know, this is not that I believe that now, but me always like women are too much drama. I'd rather be friends with guys. You know, I've always had this, and
I know quite a few women that will unconsciously think being a woman is being weak. Being a woman is it's not good. They wouldn't love, and that connects to how they perceive and love themselves as well. No?
But that's what we were saying earlier, that this embracing of the masculine qualities and not so much the feminine qualities.
Yes.
And I had the same, and obviously, you know, it's kind of comes from like how I grew up, and you know, how very like in Romania it's very traditional like family. You know, the woman stays home and cooks.
Chauvinistic, no?
So yeah, I had all of that internalized, and so, you know, hated being a woman, and you know, wished I was a man. And also not really actually paying attention or being connected to this part of me. I think, you know, I think now I've learned that like our body speaks to us and, you know, like whispers to us, and then the pain is like a scream of like, yo, that something's wrong, come on, you know. So yeah, like, you know, as a woman, like our womb is a sacred space. It's like a portal between, you know, life and death, like other realms. Like we literally, like a soul comes into the body and is being birthed through us. Like if that's not a portal, I don't know what it is. Like
if that's not important or something to be mindful of, then why it is?
Right? And I just treated it like meh, you know, like
it's something that causes me issues, no? And that's it.
Yes, and also like throughout my, you know, like drinking and things like that, and like, you know, just sleeping with whoever, you know, and now looking back, I'm like, I wouldn't be friends with that person. I wouldn't like even talk to them.
Yes.
Why would I allow them in my womb space? You know, it's like, Anyway, that was the realization I had with like, with psychedelics.
Yeah.
I had this like, I felt like, you obviously, because when you drink, you're not, one thing is that I couldn't remember any of these things, you know, because I was, you know, I drank so much that the next day I was like, whatever, I can't remember what happened. So, you know, it never happened.
Yeah.
But it's not true because your body remembers. Oof. You know, the book, The Body Keeps the Score. The body did keep the score. Yeah. And when I took psychedelics, the body was like, well, look what you've done to me. So, in my womb as well, it's like, well, no wonder I've got like pain and all these issues. It's like, look at what you've done.
And also from a metaphysic kind of point of view, where it explains how energy is all around us, and it makes sense that the body is not only physical, it's energetic, no?
Yeah.
And sex is one of the most powerful energies.
Exactly, because like two energies come together, and the womb is like takes energy and transforms it, right? But like when you're taking the energy of people that like have no, you know, intention of, you know, like it's tainted energy, because you know, that's what they do. They go and get women drunk on purpose just to take advantage of that, and that is tainted energy. That is tainted energy. So even that, for ages I didn't consider that to be like
an issue.
You know, I was like, oh, you know, it's my fault, I was drunk. but is it, you know?
Again,
It's like,
hating being a woman in a way.
yeah, because it's like, you know, anyone can just take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And also not being taught to say no.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's like, oh, it's disrespectful to say no.
Yes.
When a lot of the times I wanted to say no,
Mhm.
but I felt like I couldn't. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like your body will speak to you after that and will, you know, will force you to build boundaries
Yeah.
and to learn how to say no when you want to say no, because you know it keeps the score. So yeah, I had this thing that came to me that like, well, how have you treated your body?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, oh shit. So I since then I started actually like, yeah, treating my body as sacred and like a
The internal journey.
portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, coming back to the substances, weed, for example, what I've deducted, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like weed specialize in taking down the facade that we all carry, like that costume that we all put on when we are in the outer world. And I feel like with weed, everybody just everybody's masks comes down, and you are your truest self. Again, you feel relaxed, you feel more comfortable, more confident sometimes even. And but then I think also that some people, when they get a bit paranoid when they smoke weed, maybe they are refusing to embrace that. Could it be?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, on a
Yeah.
neuroscience perspective, people do react differently to weed,
Okay.
and some people have like a certain gene that makes them actually like react like in a paranoid way
Okay.
to it. But my first experiences with weed was like I did get paranoid, but I learned to control my breath because I felt like I think it can speed up your heart rate, and obviously when your heart rate is sped up, that can sometimes cause anxiety, or like, you know, how anxiety is like a self-fulfilling kind of cycle of like, I feel anxious, so my heart is beating, and then every time my heart is beating fast, I'm gonna get anxious, and then it's like this is what perpetuates panic attacks. But I feel like I've learned quite early with weed, whenever my heart rate would go up, to like calm myself and tell myself it's okay, it's only because of the weed. Calm. So I would like, you know, breathe, you know, like I would use breath work, you know, to like to calm myself down, and I would, to calm my mind down, and I would, and you know, again, that's one really important thing, breath work, like controlling your breathing, you know, when you get like too anxious, you know, your breathing goes too fast, your mind goes too fast. Like just come back to deep breaths. Like that will change your state and will make you more calm. But yeah, I guess with psychedelics, even like with the others I've tried after that, it's almost like it shows you a state that you've never experienced before, so that you know where you want to get to. And you can get to it sober, like yogis do it. Yogis like meditate, and they reach this state of like, you know, calm, and you know, sometimes even having like a really like spiritual experience. You know,
I have an example, but it might sound really silly. But
no,
when I was in my whole phase, you say, and I was going out all the time, and I would just go to the club to literally just get late. To be honest. Every time I would go out, obviously there was drinking involved. Every time. There could not be a night where I was not doing pre-drinks at my home and with friends, and then going out to get late. I personally enjoy dancing, opposed to many men probably. Maybe it's my culture, maybe it's just me as well. But I remember that there was a moment in those last years where I was going out where I don't know how we got to that point, but me and my friend back in the day, we decided to stop drinking that much when we would go out. Or sometimes we would not drink. And at some point, at the beginning, it's awkward because you're not feeling as as comfortable, as confident, whatever, because of the substance. But then it got to a point where we will go to the club, and we will have fun as much as when we were drunk or under the effects of the substances. And to me, it was a realization of thinking, wow, I can actually produce those hormones that make me feel good without the substances.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was an achievement because I enjoy dancing, I enjoy the club, I enjoy the people, I enjoy the energy. And it's so much better to be conscious while you're doing it rather than just being on the effect of whatever. Alcohol could be cocaine. I haven't tried cocaine, but
No,
you
me
know.
neither.
That would be crazy. I'm quite scared to try cocaine, not gonna lie. It's not something I fancy.
You never know what it is, though. This is what I always had. Like weed, yeah, it's a green plant. Cool. You know?
And even they alter it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with cocaine, it's just a white dust. It could be anything. It could be like,
Chalkboard.
literally paracetamol. You could die. You could die from that. So I've and plus obviously studying it and knowing like the effects it has and having friends who would do it and speed and things like that and seeing like that it's really impacting their life.
Addiction, is it part of the DNA? Is it a gene? Is there any studies on that, or is it something more psychological?
I think it's both.
Both.
So definitely some people are genetically more prone to addiction.
Yeah.
But especially if they've had addiction in their family before, this shows there's something there. But also like trauma, early trauma can then predispose you to addiction because you're trying to numb. That's what people find. People find like solace in numbing their emotions and not having to deal with that. So obviously you come out of that and you feel down again and then you take it again and then it's just this cycle. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both. But then after a while, so you'd think it starts as like it's fine, I'm just gonna do it again and again, and I'm always gonna be able to stop it.
Yeah.
But that's not true because once your dopamine system has started to be altered by these substances, then your frontal part of your brain that usually has control over it loses that ability to control. So the dopamine system that's like deeper in the brain gains more control over. So you're a very much reward-oriented person after that. You're not like let me think. Do I want to do this? That's not an option anymore.
Same happens with sugar, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they all play on the same sugar screens.
Yes. No, sugar. I've been trying to quit as much sugar as I can because it's a drug.
Yeah.
It is a drug.
It is. Yeah.
In your journey with psychedelics and that, did you also go to therapy?
Yeah. So it's always been parallel. I feel like since I've discovered psychedelics, like I always knew that whatever comes up in there, I'm gonna have to like talk to someone about it. So yeah, I think it started in the same time, like like there was a lot in that I feel like psychedelics aren't for everyone. There's a lot like that you come to all of these realizations and you need to be able to contain all of that because there's no point like I hear people say psychedelics are like doing 10 years of therapy in one session, and it can be, but then you do need those therapy sessions. You need integration. You need imagine getting all of the insights from 10 years of therapy in 2 hours. How would your body react? You would be so overwhelmed.
Yes.
It would be so much,
Yes.
it would be such a shift in your, like a breakthrough. And then what? Then how do you come back to your normal life that is still where it's where you are, literally where you left it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I needed someone to help me make sense. So luckily I found a therapist that was because there is psychedelic therapy, you know, there's very established library of people. There's this Institute of Psychedelic Therapy that advertises, you know, therapists that can help with integrating, because let's face it, they know people take psychedelic. They know that, you know, people go to festivals and take psychedelics. Like, you know, I'm part of a organization that goes to festivals, like, and it's called PsyCare. So we care for people who take psychedelics if things become too much. There's a tent space where they can come and like chill if things become too much, and it sometimes turns into therapy sessions.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it's not like before they used to deal with them by, like, you know, the security would take them and escort them to a mental ward. How is that helping? You know, in that moment, that person's probably traumatized for life. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm bringing shame on it. Like, oh, you've
and in that state as well, in that like psychedelic state, like that will stay with you forever, literally. Yeah, I guess, you know, in with psychedelics, like your mind is a blank canvas, and so the patterns that are so ingrained in you are not. So you get to see the world from different points of view, and your life from different points of view. But yeah, so I did therapy in the same time to like guess make sense of the changes that were coming up. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that psychologists are not problem solvers, are guides.
Yeah, psychotherapists, I feel, are. Yeah, it's just like, you know, psychotherapy and therapy is like, there's different types of therapy. So there's CBT, which, you know, is like talking therapy, and let's identify patterns of your mind that are not serving you. That's great. That can help a lot of people, but it's, for a lot of us, it's not the full picture. So in psychotherapy, psychotherapy is designed, like, you know, they say CBT is like painting a wall in your house. Psychotherapy is like rebuilding the foundations of the house. So like some people are in therapy for years, you know, because it takes, I mean, if it took us 26 years to become who we are now, then to unbecome who we are, it's going to take, you know, a few years at least, you know, or like to change some fundamental aspects. So like, let's say for me, some very core belief, like very early belief that I developed because, you know, my parents were busy. They were working all the time, you know, the society we live in. You know, they were working all the time. So I was with my grandma, and, you know, but this thing that like my parents didn't have enough time, you know, so I thought that I didn't matter, you know, like that no one loves me, because if my parents, like if I don't matter as much, so my parents like spend enough time with me, then they don't love me. And if my parents don't love me, then no one loves me. So this mantra of nobody loves me stayed with me. Like, you know, whenever like they would say, I love you, my mom would say, no, you don't, nobody loves me. And this stayed with me for so long. So imagine wanting to change that and being like, oh, this is, you know, my mind being like, oh, this is silly. I have so many people that love me. Why do I believe nobody loves me? Let me change that. What changed? Nothing, because my cells, every single cell and bone in my body is programmed to nobody loves me, right? So when I feel that nobody loves me, I really feel it in every part of my body. And that feels like that depression, that like, I feel heavy, I feel unworthy, I feel small, you know, in my body, you know. So it's nothing to do with the brain. The thoughts come after. After my body's like literally like shriveled up, and like literally I feel it. It's a very visceral experience, and I feel like it's like this for a lot of people. Like we experience the world through feelings rather than thoughts.
We first feel, then we think. And I'm thinking to extrapolate it to, for example, in the case of women, daddy issues, when they haven't been loved properly, or not properly, but when they haven't felt loved per se by their father, then it's impossible, or they're incapable of feeling actually loved by another man in their life, no? The same way with men. If they felt they haven't been loved by their mother, they will never feel fulfilled in any relationship with a woman because they don't feel their worth of their love.
Yeah, I think there's different aspects of say people can, there's a attachment, different attachment styles, and there's anxious, and there's the avoidant style, and there's the secure, and only like 30% of people are securely attached, and the rest of us are just like maybe more. Sorry, don't quote me on that, but yeah, there's a lot of people that are not, securely attached, or and attachment is something that's built in the first 3 years of our lives, and that stays with us for the rest of our life.
Wow.
Again, you can change the dynamics in a relationship, but like at your core, you'll still have those like tendencies. And what were we saying about? What was how did you start this? No, I'm just like
because of the no.
Oh yeah, you said the daddy issues and mommy issues. I think women can also have mommy issues and
of course, yeah.
And now there's different like facets of it.
Yes.
I think, but yeah, I resonate with daddy issues. But then
mommy issues. How would you say mommy issues portrayed in a woman's character?
I think there's disconnection from like hating being a woman and things like that. Body image issues, I think, is a strong one. Like, if your mom didn't like love her own body and didn't like, there's a lot like projection on like mothers on daughters of like, why did you gain weight? Why did you should stop eating this? But it's really projection of like they're not happy with how they look. But this is just one small aspect. But like I feel like attachment, like early attachment, is very much about the mom. And then, because she carried you, so it's like very early issue. Like everyone has like like you can love your mom and everything, but like there's always that's the main thing that can happen, and then like the dad issues. But obviously that depends on who you grew up with, different situations. But obviously a therapist would be able to, that's why therapy takes so long, because it's like
you have
hard
to identify first what's going on.
Like it's hard to like I know I have some daddy issues, and I've like, but it's not because I haven't been loved by my dad. It's just because of how
the dynamics. We're talking.
He didn't have a dad. His dad died when he was 4, so he never saw like how you're supposed to be a dad. So he's just trying his best to be a good dad to a girl who like he's never experienced being a girl, being a woman, So he kind of tried his best, and there's men aren't that emotional, or if they are, they just they're taught to like block it.
Exactly. I feel like I have mother issues, but even though she wouldn't go to therapy because she's there's a generation of people who would just refuse to do that. But if what we were talking about, finding the compassion on them, I think it has helped me to even go through those patterns that come from those mother issues. I love my mom, but obviously she's not perfect. No, not at all. No one, no mother is perfect. No matter what they say. No father.
Perfect.
Because perfection doesn't exist.
We inherit, their dynamics and things like that. And that's why, if there's conflict in your house between your parents, then you're gonna have an inner conflict as well
in your
growing up, because you have a bit of your dad and a bit of your mom, and they can be in conflict, inside, So I feel like there's been a lot of work. I know that there's so much more work for me to do on myself, so that's why I'm like, I'm not sitting here like, oh, this expert.
I got all the answers. No.
I don't. I I can only speak from my experience and from what I've seen. But it's enough to just like work like on yourself and just understand that your parents did their best. This therapy is not, a lot of people say like, oh, therapy, just going and blaming your parents for everything that happened to
I
you.
would say that's one of the first stages.
Yeah, but it's not it's not all there is, and that's why
Exactly,
like your parents would discourage you from going.
Yeah,
'Cause
of
they're
course,
like,
yeah.
no, because you do go through a stage of
Yeah.
like, but it's not even about, it's because it's not about the parents, it's about the grief of the childhood I could have had. You know,
Exactly,
that's all, like
Yeah.
that regret of like things could have been better.
Yes.
And I would have been different. But then again, I don't want to be different because I'm quirky and I like it.
Yes. I love who I am. Yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
love
yes.
who I am. So it's not,
Yes.
it's not coming from that.
You started a project, a health project here in Southampton in 2023. Could you talk about that?
A mental health project.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I guess after I've kind of found my purpose, which is to work with people, I started working in mental health. I felt like I can do more. Like I want to help more people.
Yeah.
So I started going to these like circles, which was like women's circles at the beginning, just sitting in a circle with other women and talking about our experience of being a woman, periods and stuff. No one wants to talk about periods nowadays. So it's like, it's great to find a group of people that want to talk about these things and to feel supported. Because obviously I was going through like my journey with like the endometriosis, and I just wanted to find some support and compassion. And I guess this is where you could see that my relationship with being a woman had changed, because I was ready to sit in the circle and not feel like
ashamed.
She's prettier than me.
Yeah.
Why is she dressed like this? Why did she look at me like that? There was no more of that. Like it was just acceptance and like, he was nice. And I feel like as a woman, our relationship and our like sisterhood with other women is like, it's such a beautiful experience. Like to experience as a man, the love of a woman is like something nice, but like, to experience like the love of a group of women and to feel so accepted, like, it's so amazing. So once I found that and started to go like different things, different like group gatherings, I felt like, I worked through a lot of my like issues in groups of like feeling like being like, I felt like maybe like, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable being heard by other people, and I thought that what I just, again, an internalized belief that what I say doesn't matter, so I'm not gonna bother. But I worked through that. So yeah, I felt like, my purpose, my calling is to help people with their mental health. And I've been in circles before, so I feel like I can start something like a circle in which let's gather to talk about mental health. I thought, well, what a great idea. Like Mind does this, like the organization Mind does this. So I thought I can do it. Like I have the marketing tools, I can make a flyer, stuff like that. And it really felt like I really wanted to do it. And at the same time, I always had this idea of like, having a mental health cafe, like where people can come and talk about whatever. So I just like, I don't know, this because I'm a fire sign. When I get these ideas, like they're so strong, I'm doing it now. So I printed this poster and I went to Coffee Number 1 in Portswood, and I was like, can I sit down and like, just put this poster up that said, if you're struggling, let's talk. And they're like, yeah, sure. Like they gave me a free coffee and all, and I sat there and no one came.
It's like, okay, I guess I talked to myself.
People were reading it and just like walking the other way.
I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to be vulnerable.
But like, I know. Because would I go and sit? Maybe I would now because I work in mental health. I know, but So I had to like, maybe think of a different way. So I started these like mental health circles, and to be honest, at best I had like 5 people attending. 2 were my friends. But then again, like it's nice to find a group with your friends. I had actually like at one point we did like a vision board workshop. And so one of my friends came, and then this random guy, like, because I was doing them at U-Massage in Bedford Place, like a massage place. Random guy came out of his massage, saw the poster, and he came in and he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm going traveling soon, so like, I want to do like a vision board. And we did this like meditation to find an intention. There was like, 3 of us, but it was nice. But after that, like, I just thought, I want to find a different way to help people, because this is clearly not, I mean, I'm not the, you know, how other people are more perseverant with their things.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it doesn't work like within a month or like 2, I think I gave it about 4 months. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, no, like I need it. I can't like keep doing it every month and like, you know, be disappointed by the fact that no one shows up or like 2 people show up. And I also felt like, because it was donation based, I felt like I didn't want to charge for it, but in the same time, a lot of time and effort was going into it, and I had to pay for the space as well. So I felt, and obviously holding a space like that, where, you know, sometimes people will cry and sometimes people will need support. Like you need, it's energy, right? Like you're putting energy in, and you're not really getting much back. So I felt like the energy exchange there was like imbalanced.
Yeah.
So again, this was something that was taking a lot from me, and in that same time, like where I was in my life with like my, you know, living with my parents, and my relationship was a bit rocky as well. I didn't have this energy to keep giving. So again, it's not that like I think the project was great. I think where I was in my life, I wasn't in a place to be offering this to people. So I had to pause. And again, that's when I had like another mental breakdown, and you know, really being like depressed again, you know, the project failing, which I thought, you know, all of the thoughts of like, I always start things and not finish them. I really believed in this project, and it failed, you know. I kind of like, I don't know, obviously in that moment of feeling really down, I didn't, and, you know, a lot of other things happen anyway when you're in therapy, like things come up and you have to deal with them, you know. So, you know, I was like really dealing with grief as an emotion, which feels like depression. And that's where I went to quite a dark place of like, you know, I really like, I had suicidal thoughts. I like not acting on them, but like, you know, really like feeling like I don't want to be here. I don't want to live. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live anymore. Like, and really like fantasizing about not living anymore, which was quite scary.
Yeah, heavy.
Quite scary, quite heavy. So but I've, you know, again, stuck with therapy. I changed to somatic therapy, which is more focused on like the feeling, the, you know, the body aspect. So I really worked on like holding this grief, because emotions come up. And it's only a problem, because emotions will always come up, but it's only a problem when they overwhelm you and they take over and you start believing in what they're saying. So my grief was saying, I don't want to live anymore. And, you know, if only I could treat it like, you know, I hear you and I'm sorry that you're going through this. Like, you know, like treat it as a friend, you know, like rather than treat it as, oh my God, you again, I don't want you to be here. You know?
Why are you feeling like this?
Why am I feeling like this, you know? So my therapy helped me a lot. I did something called internal family systems therapy.
Wow. That sounds interesting.
Which is, you know, treating every emotion like a part of yourself that is stuck at the age where you've really felt that emotion very strongly and didn't know what to do with it. So you created a part of yourself that's not the whole, you know? And it didn't become like, you know, I don't know, it's like a part of you that became kind of blended with who you are. So like when it comes up, you believe it's you, but it's not you. So that was my work in therapy, of like getting to know this grief and being there for it when it comes up, rather than being like, oh, I don't want you here, I'll push you down. And it really, like, it grew my capacity to be with it when it comes up. Like, I'll let myself cry, like out of grief or, you know, whatever. I think we all experience grief, and grief isn't just about losing a loved one. I think, as I was saying, grief of, you know, not having the childhood that you would have expected. Grief for the places and the aspects of us that have never been loved. That's that's a deep one. Grief for how things could have been, could have turned out. Grief, environmental grief, collective grief, you know, grief and like trauma gets passed down through generations. And imagine like our grandparents, they lost people in war or things like that. There's been a lot of grief, like in for example,
because there's generational trauma, no?
Yeah, exactly that. So my dad lost his dad when he was 4, and he never understood probably why. And that grief just never got processed. And my grandma, she lost her husband, which was my dad's dad, and she also lost her sister very early on. So I think at that point, when they were in survival mode, there's no time to sit and process your feelings. So you just they change your identity, and then you pass that down. And it got to me, and I guess I'm in a privileged position to have this space and not be in survival mode, and to be able to process it. So in a lot of sense, I feel like I am a cycle breaker, which can be a great thing, but can also be like, you're kind of like you're creating your own path. Like none of the people before you have walked this path.
Yes.
It feels lonely. It feels heavy.
In general, our generation is a cycle breakers.
Yeah.
We have come here to break a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not only in society, but in our families, in our family trees. Generational trauma is a real thing. I don't know if it's imprinted maybe in our DNA, or maybe has a more scientific way to being explained, but it's real.
Yeah, it is. Because it's epigenetics, so genetics that are like built throughout your lifetime. Those can also be passed down. So we used to think that DNA is only passed down like, and like through the cells that you have, like the sex cells that you have. And that whatever you do throughout your lifetime doesn't change that. I think it's called germinal DNA.
Okay.
I forgot my biology. But there's different types of DNA, but like the epigenetics, it's like the things that change in your DNA throughout your lifetime, and we're finding out that they can change. So like the stress, and even like smoking, like if one of your parents is smoking, even they will pass that down, because their DNA changes. Any mutation, anything like that gets passed down, and they think it wouldn't, but any action you make will have an imprint on the next generation to come. 100%.
Wow.
100%. So like
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so a lot of us have ancestors who have been to war, and and have witnessed some horrible things, and that stress can get passed down. And it's been proven by science. There's studies on it. So
that the thing, all of this that we're talking, I think to many must be like a bucket of cold water, because we are like the biggest the biggest humble lesson that could be taught to somebody is that we are broken beings. We are not as perfect as this system wants us to make us believe, that we can be this superficial, pretty being. No, we are truly fragile and truly broken, and we have a lot of work to do on ourselves to even believe that we are healthy.
But yeah.
But not in a pessimistic way, as no.
I feel like the beauty is in our brokenness and in our imperfection as well. There is a lot of like, so I always think like the work you do on yourself is like, it becomes inner gold that you can. I think it's not my quote. It's probably from Jung, I think, Carl Jung. It's like, your shadow, which is like your darker aspects of yourself that are in shadow because you don't want to be them. You don't want to look at them. They are actually where your gold, your wisdom resides. If only you become friends with them and take them in.
But they were called your demons.
Your demons, befriend your demons, and then you'll have this inner gold that you can then share. like a lot of our life force and a lot of like energy is locked into these like lessons, and we, you know, in like, or trauma, let's call it. And we can reclaim it and bring it back into our life. And I can say, like, you know, that I have experienced that, you know, reconnected with younger parts of myself that I've told myself, or other people told me it's not okay to be like that, you know. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll put that away in a box.
Yeah, definitely. I like what Carl Jung talked about, the mind. I remember he kind of, he believed a bit in what's the word, esoteric world. Yes. And he kind of combined psychology with that. No, it's beautiful. But because we're running out of time, to finish, how can people find you, and what can they get from you if they would like to collaborate or even go to your workshops? And well, let's start from that, and then something else I want to say.
So I'm on Instagram as Embody Journey. I am body dot journey. And everything I do is on there. I don't have a website, but I will. So, it's coming up. But I do about like monthly workshops. I'm thinking, because I'll be away for about a month, and when I come back in like end of July, August, I want to like I want to do more. I want to start doing one-to-one, and you know, like doing somatic yoga, one-to-one as well, like connecting to your body. And I always bring in this like spiritual perspective on things. So
beautiful. If you could give a message to any young girl who is starting a self-discovery journey, who maybe resonates with many of the things that you have said, what would you tell them or her? What would you tell them?
A young girl to like, very cheesy, like love yourself, but treat your body as something sacred, and your womb, your cycle, your femininity as something sacred. And embrace your emotions, because as women we are emotional beings, and we are very highly intuitive beings as well, and we all have this, like, you know, almost like this sixth sense. I think men have it too, but it's just like we call it like a feminine quality,
intuition, no?
It's like a more feminine quality. So embrace that, you know, in a world that doesn't sort of, you know, like makes us sort of disconnected from our bodies, from our emotions. Embrace them, because they have so much knowledge that they can teach us. And
no, life is more about connecting with this and with this. And even if you might think, oh, but I'm very impulsive, I'm very what's the word?
Emotional.
Yeah. There's a difference, because impulsiveness comes from a place that is not healthy. Let's say it's not the healthy way to look at emotions. But healthy emotions come from a way of discernment and understanding how you feel. Know how something makes you feel. Well, I didn't explain myself the best way there, but yeah, everything, the focus should be here, not here, basically.
Yeah, I feel like being in the heart, so seeing things from this level rather than always making sense. Like there's two aspects of ourselves, and both have just as much wisdom as each other. So if something doesn't feel right, but you think it should, then maybe go with what your body or your heart is saying. yeah, I think that's another lesson that I've learned.
I think we got to 5 then.
Yay!
Well, before you go, can I get you to sign the portrait and reveal it? Because we haven't seen it actually.
Sign it on
On the
reveal it.
front. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that, the roses.
Oh, nice. Wow. It turned out really good actually. Because most of the pictures have like, I don't know why my portrait does weird stuff. So yeah, I tell everybody sign as the star or the artist or the persona, but sign as who you truly are. Yeah.
The
Perfect.
heart.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Roxana. I hope you enjoy it. I'm pretty sure many people are going to enjoy this conversation. And to everybody, I'll see you in the next one. Give it a like, subscribe, share. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for supporting. I'll see you. Ciao. Nice. We went through it. It went well. So.
Fuck, I told my friend we'll meet at 1. It's like 10 to 2.